Breaking news. Putin's conflict and Putin's global empire with Rolf Mowatt. On Putin's war and Putin's world, we invite you to listen to Rolf Mowatt Larsen, a former senior intelligence official. Mowatt Larsen will discuss the battle in Ukraine and Vladimir Putin, the leader, drawing on his extensive knowledge of Russia and nuclear security. How far along is the conflict in Ukraine? How does it conclude? What is Putin's motivation? How does he arrive at his decisions? Could you tell me his goals and personality? Mowatt Larsen provided invaluable support to NTI's efforts to reduce global threats during his tenure as the organization's first William J. Perry Distinguished Fellow. Before his position as director of the Intelligence Project at Harvard University's Belfer Center ended in July 2019, he was a senior fellow there. He oversaw intelligence and counterintelligence operations for the United States Department of Energy for almost 3 years prior to his position at Harvard. During his 23 years of service with the CIA, Mowatt Larsen held a number of positions both at home and abroad, including those of Chief of the Weapons of Mass Destruction Department, Counter-Terrorist Center, and Deputy Associate Director of Central Intelligence for Military Support. He was also Chief of the Europe Division in the Directorate of Operations. Overseas, he was stationed in Russia, Europe, and the Middle East on multiple occasions. After serving as an officer in the United States Army, Mowatt Larsen transitioned to a career in intelligence. He went to West Point, New York, to get his military degree. As Western supplies continue to decline, a coalition of NATO nations has restocked with 1,000 Patriot missiles. Germany, the Netherlands, Romania, and Spain having to £4.3 billion, $5.5 billion, deal that will see the surface-to-air missiles made solely in Europe. As supplies were deployed to Ukraine to shoot down Russian rockets and drones, the West's stocks of the US-designed missiles, which cost £3.2 million, $4 million each, have rapidly reduced, following a week of heavy Russian missile and drone attacks that have wounded around 330 people and killed over 50. The new pact increases the likelihood of future funding to Kyiv. The early announcement to invest in up to 1,000 new Patriot air defense missiles to strengthen the alliance's security was praised by Jens Stoltenberg, the Secretary General of NATO. Europe will produce 1,000 Patriot air defense missiles itself, added Dutch Defense Minister Kajsa Ollongren. This proved that when Europe works together, they always achieve tangible results. Sevastopol, Kursk, and Belgorod were all hit by Ukrainian retaliation attacks that happened overnight. Following a missile strike by Russia, a Kharkiv school partially collapsed. Russian artillery fire killed 1 person in Kherson and 2 in Zaporizhia. According to the Ministry of Defense, MOD, Russia has destroyed a substantial portion of its missile inventory in its recent strikes on Ukrainian cities. In response, Norway has offered to provide 2 F-16 fighter jets to a program that trains pilots in Ukraine. The Air Force erroneously struck a Russian village on Tuesday, injuring 4 people. It was found a guy from Ukraine was given a 15-year prison term for his role in operating a separatist torture chamber within seized Donetsk, according to Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal. Ukraine will require around £29 billion, $37 billion, in financial assistance from Western countries in 2024, as Western supplies began to decline. A coalition of NATO nations bought 1,000 Patriot missiles to top them off. Ukrainian Prime Minister, we urge £29 billion in Western aid. Ukrainian Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal has stated that the country will require more than £29 billion, $37 billion, in financial assistance from Western countries in 2024. The demands for this year surpassed $37 billion, he stated during a gathering of government officials. We rely on consistent, reliable, and prompt support from our associates, the World Bank, the European Union, the USA, Japan, Canada, and the UK were named as the primary financial backers of Kyiv, he claimed. Allies and international organizations supporting Ukraine have contributed approximately $278 billion, £220 billion, in help since the war broke out. With £121 billion, €153 billion, going toward financial assistance, border blockade to be resumed by Polish farmers, Due to the lack of a signed commitment from newly appointed Prime Minister Donald Tusk, Polish farmers will resume their blockade of a border crossing with Ukraine on Thursday, on December 24. They put an end to a 2-month-long demonstration at the Medyka checkpoint, demanding reduced taxes and more subsidies for maize prices. However, beginning Thursday, the roadblock will be reinstated, limiting the throughput to 1 truck every hour. No written guarantee that our requests will be honored has been received, thus we will continue the protest, stated Roman Kondro. The protest leader, on December 23, the farmers will have their requests addressed, according to Czeslaw Siekierski, the Minister of Agriculture, head of the torture cell in Donetsk, sentenced to 15 years in prison. A man responsible for running a torture room in seized Donetsk, which was used by separatists, was sentenced to 15 years in prison by a Ukrainian court. From 2015 till 2018, Denis Kulikovsky oversaw the Izoliatia prison located in a city industrial. The facility was responsible for the detention and torture of activists, journalists, and prisoners of war. He has been found guilty of terrorism, brutal treatment of detainees, and involvement in an illegal armed group after his arrest in Kiev in November 2021. Mr. Kulikovsky is also obligated to pay 2 of his ex-convicts £1,980, $2,500, and £8,300, $10,480, in settlements of civil claims. The NATO airstrikes launched by Putin will fail. The airstrikes launched by Vladimir Putin against Ukrainian cities will not be able to break Ukraine's resilience, according to NATO. According to a statement sent to Polish radio station RMF.FM, NATO strongly condemns the Russian government's use of missiles and drones to target Ukrainian civilians, cities, and towns. This is another evidence that Putin is trying to undermine Ukraine's resolve. He is doomed to fail. Support for Kiev will be maintained by the alliance for as long as it takes. According to officials, the Allies have already supplied Ukraine with numerous air defense systems and are dedicated to enhancing its defense capabilities even further. The statement read, "Tragic incident in Kherson leaves elderly guy dead in his own home. The house of an old Ukrainian man collapsed on top of him, killing him, as a result of shelling by Russian fire," according to Governor Alexander Perkutin. The man was ensnared beneath debris after an artillery bombardment that occurred just after 11 a.m. local time, 8 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time, in the Kherson settlement of Sadov. The man's body has been extricated from the debris by rescue workers, he said. Russian airstrikes on Tuesday seriously damaged the Kiev home of Ukrainian lawmaker Kira Rudik, who compared the destruction to Armageddon. According to Rudik, "It felt like Armageddon, honestly," the leader of the Liberal Holos opposition party told Sky News, describing the unending attack as a true nightmare. A portion of Ms. Rudik's home was devoid of windows upon her return from an air raid bunker. "In Ukraine, there is no guarantee that you will wake up when you go to bed," she remarked.